The road leading to Santana started at the Fillmore West in San Francisco for Michael Shrieve. That led him to joining the band, of course, and being on stage without even releasing an album. Santana were at Woodstock and their album wasn't going to be released for a few days. So all that music, for the most part, was new to most of that huge crowd. But Michael did something that was really gutsy to get on stage at the Fillmore West, which led to him meeting Carlos Santana. And we also ask him in this clip to describe Carlos. And there's another great drummer from Tower of Power, David Garibaldi, who lived with Michael Shrieve for a year. They became really good friends. We talk about that and a lot more on Rock History Music. Carlos Santana was born July 20th, 1947 in Mexico. He was really exposed to a lot of music at an early age by his father, who was a mariachi violinist. And by 8, that's what Santana was doing, playing the violin. By 12, he picked up the guitar, and he was heavily influenced by blues guitarists B.B. King and Johnny Lee Hooker. In the early 60s, he moved to San Francisco, where he immersed himself in the music scene. In 66, he formed the Santana Blues Band, which later, of course, became Santana, a band that fused Latin rhythms, blues, and rock, and they quickly gained a lot of attention in the local scene. The band's breakthrough was in 69, when they played Woodstock without even releasing their first album. They would have great albums like the self-titled Santana, Abraxas, Santana 3. In the early 70s, they started going into a jazz fusion style. The band's early lineup included keyboardist Greg Raleigh, who was also a vocalist, David Brown on bass, Michael Shrieve on drums. Later, Neil Schon would join. Santana, one of the most influential bands in the history of rock and roll. Michael Shrieve was born July 6, 1949 in San Francisco. He's an iconic drummer, best known for his groundbreaking work with the band Santana. And that career of his took off at a young age. But let's remember the amount of work you have to do to be noticed by Carlos Santana and to be on stage as one of the youngest performers at Woodstock. He was only 20. That was in 1969. This extraordinary performance at Woodstock, especially during the solo in Soul Sacrifice, is one of the most iconic moments in rock and roll history. Many call it the holy grail of drumming solos. So Shrieve was a big part of the early success of Santana, playing on their first album, simply titled Santana, and released just a few days after their performance at Woodstock in 69. And it featured the hit Evil Ways. He continued to be a big part of that band on subsequent albums, including Abraxas in 1970, which included the iconic track Black Magic Woman, originally recorded by Fleetwood Mac and written by their guitarist, Peter Green. And then their amazing version of Tito Puente's Hoy Como Va. Shrieve's blend of rock, jazz, and Latin rhythms helped define the band's unique style. Shrieve stayed with Santana till the mid-1970s, playing on several more iconic albums, including Santana 3. And he stayed with them as they experimented with more jazz-influenced sounds. After leaving the band, Shrieve embarked on a very successful solo career and worked with a lot of different artists, including Stomo Yamashita's Go project. Yamashita was a pioneer in popularizing a fusion of traditional Japanese percussive music and Western progressive rock, specifically in the 60s and 70s. This band Go also featured Steve Winwood and Al Di Meola. Throughout his career, Shrieve has made major contributions to music, but always stretching the envelope. Fusion meets rock meets world music, and he's been instrumental in popularizing African drum sounds for quite a few years. His new album is called Drums of Compassion. It's a very primal drumming masterpiece, featuring the father of African drumming, Michael Olantuji, who died quite a few years ago, but his old recordings are featured on the album. Trey Gunn is also on there, as well as Airto Moreira. When it comes to drumming, you can easily say Michael Shrieve has his own lane. You think that kid was walking into the Fillmore wanting to sit in? Well, describe that kid who did get on stage. You did it at the Fillmore. What was that kid like? Who was he?
I think he was pretty confident. Like he had been practicing every day, getting up when his parents went to work. If he would practice the same hours they were at work, from 8 a.m., starting at 8 a.m., and then go to big band at 3 o'clock. And he played a lot and got experience and had some confidence. Called all his friends, music friends, and said, "Let's go up to the Fillmore and see if we can sit in." And every one of them said, "Yeah, right." And so, it pissed me off enough that I said, "Well, I'm gonna at least go try." And so I went up there and pulled on Michael Bloomfield's pant leg and asked if I could sit in. And I couldn't believe it. He said, yeah, you know. And so big lessons there, of course, the obvious ones, but I think I was pretty confident.
Carlos Santana to you is?
My musical soul brother.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but look, the chance thing about the Fillmore, for instance, there was no way someone with your skills. I mean, I've watched you at Woodstock. I'd watched that. It's been called the Holy Grail of drumming by some people. Henry Gross was just telling me. I interview him once a year, and he always says, "Come on, if the old thing you've said it too. If you remember it, you weren't there, but you were gonna. There was no way you weren't going to get noticed. You were just at a certain level.
You know, I had no idea. I mean, the better solo is the next year at Tanglewood, but nobody had any idea, John, that this was going to happen. We were doing what we were doing. I mean, we were doing this every night, and it just happened to be caught on camera in front of 500,000 people. But that's what we were doing, and we were playing at that level every night, you know.
It's interesting
So
the fact that the first album came out, what, 6, 8 days after your performance then?
something within the month, I know it's kind of ironic, but I also think it's pretty amazing that we won the crowd over when nobody had heard the music before.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I forgot that over the years, you know, that was one of the things that happened where we were the only band that really didn't have a record out.
A music dude that I knew, we were listening to you and he says, that guy's a jazz dude, man. That guy plays like, that guy's a jazz dude. And I never forgot that.
That's really cool because I just spoke to someone earlier and she was saying, like how you, learn these complicated, you know, polyrhythmic Latin stuff that you do, combining it with this. And I was like, that's a bunch of hogwash. Like, I played with these guys who played Latin, but I never played Latin. I did everything like a jazz drummer. And it just happened to fit, you know? I mean, with the I just swing it like a jazz guy, ting, 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 And so it added a different touch and feel and flavor to that sound, but he was right. I'd approach everything more like like Elvin, Jack DeJohnette, and I was hardly a rock drummer, you know. That was the hardest stuff for me to to play the rock songs, but yeah, he was right.
David Garibaldi. So you came up to him and said, "Where do you live?" And you guys ended up living together for a year.
Well, I went to see him play. I heard about him a lot in San Francisco, but I was always on the road with Santana. But there were cassette tapes being passed around about with this guy and this band, Tower of Power, and I had heard them. And so one night I was able to go see him, and I was living in the Marin County across the Golden Gate Bridge. I saw him in San Francisco in a small, sweaty club, and it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever seen in my life. I did a radio podcast for a while interviewing musicians, and um, it was like I walked into that place and the rhythm was like some alien displaced funk music that you never heard before, you know? And so I introduced myself afterwards, and it was just regular question like, where do you live type of thing. And he said, I don't know, I'm looking for a place right now. And so I had this nice place, and so I invited him to move in. And yeah, we lived together for like a year. I was able to learn some of his stuff. At least I know where it's coming from. He's unbelievable as a person, as a drummer, as a human being. And he's just unbelievable. He's like a man among men.
I want to thank all the folks who are donating to the channel. It's keeping us healthy because YouTube's algorithms are all over the place right now, and a lot of YouTubers are quitting. So thank you for that, for keeping us healthy. If you want to make a donation, There's a PayPal link at the very top of the description. You can join our Patreon where you'll get early access to all our videos. And we've partnered with Teespring where you can buy a t-shirt, a cap, a jacket with our logo on it. And remember, subscribe to our channel, share our videos, comment on them, and like them. And click on that bell notification so you get notified of all our new videos. It makes a huge difference. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music.